Hi, hello, welcome to this section of programming overview. In this section, you will basically get an understanding of programming, how to approach programming and what it takes to write a program. As simple as that. You will understand in this video what is programming, what is required to write a program, and you'll look at different types of programming languages. We'll discuss the pros and cons and then see what programming is all about. All right, so let's look at what is programming. So first, let us understand what is a program. So what is a program? A program is nothing but a set of computer instructions which is basically written to solve a problem. A program instructs a computer to perform certain tasks which are required to solve a problem. So how do you write a program? So let's look at a sample here. So let us consider a problem. For example, let us look at finding the area of a rectangle. It's a very simple primitive problem. If you want to solve a problem like this in your mathematics, for example, what you need the data which is associated with a rectangle. For example, you would like to know the data which is length and width. So if you have the length and width, you will be able to identify the area, or you would be able to compute the area. And the same concept is applicable even in computing, where we require the data related to the problem. And once you have the data, you can write a function which basically has the formula or the logic. So the formula is length into width is what the area is all about, and you're able to get the area of a rectangle by specifying this information. And this is what we write a program, and we consider this in a programming environment. Now let us look at evolving or evolution of programming. So it all started with machine language, because computers understand only machine language and only binary, which has zeros and ones. Of course, understanding and interpreting and writing a program in binary is not something which a human can do. It's very difficult, and that is the reason people started looking at alternate ways, and that gave birth to assembly language programming. So this is one of the initial world of programming, where we had processors like 8085, which is one of the predominantly used microprocessors, and it had a programming mechanism called assembly language programming, which had certain opcodes or operational codes, and using this series of operational codes we could do some programming. That was very low level, and later emerged non-procedural languages, which was just a simple English type steps that are basically required for writing a program, and an example is basic language. It was just a simple interpreter, and further to this we started getting into procedural languages, where the program was compiled and then it was executed using a programming runtime environment, and that is what a C or Pascal language is all about. Further to procedural languages, we also have object-oriented programming languages like Java, C++, C#, etc. Of course, you can write a procedural language even in C++ or Java programming environment, but it is not intended. So we intend to write an object-oriented program using a language like Java. And the last but not least is scripting languages. So scripting languages like Python, JavaScript are something which are popular primarily for some basic activities that you need to do. For example, on a web browser, you want to write some logic. Yes, JavaScript is a good option today, which you can basically use. So these are the different types of programming that came into picture with different languages. So how does this type of different types of programming differ? So let's take a look at it. Procedural language is about writing certain procedures, like you may be doing some experiment in a lab and you need to follow certain steps, and those steps have to be in the same order, right? Same concept is applied here as well, where in a procedural language we execute the instructions step by step. So Pascal, C, Fortran, or these are the languages which can be used to develop a procedural program. Next, we do have object-oriented programming. So object-oriented programming is based on certain basic core object-oriented principles influenced with the human interactions, how we interact with fellow human beings. So the same way it was basically conceptualized. C++, Java, C#, these are some of the examples of languages which support object-oriented programming concepts. Then we do have another important programming type called as functional programming. Functional programming focuses on using functions, something similar to a procedural programming as well. But what is the difference? Deals with immutable data. So it is more scalable, and it basically helps in creating immutable functions, which is much more efficient compared to the standard procedural languages. Haskell, Lisp are some of the examples. Of course, today we can also write functional programming using languages like Python, Java, etc. But these are some of the initial early languages which supported functional programming concepts. Then we do have declarative programming. In declarative programming talks about the activity or what is the end goal. So you specify the program to do some end activity or what you need to accomplish, and you leave it to the program or the environment to do that particular task for us. So it focuses on what and not on how. For example, SQL or structured query language, which is the language of databases, where you specify a query and say, I want this particular data. For example, I want customer data. So you execute a query, and it is up to the database engine to decide how it is basically getting that particular data. So it's analogous to something like you want to go from your home to airport, right? So you can take different paths. So you are supposed to reach airport by say 3 p.m. How you reach is up to you. So you can decide your own strategies. So that's a simple example which you can basically say how I can basically go there and I can have different options. Even Java Streams, which is another API programming library which is there in the Java environment, which we'll of course explore in the later videos, is also an example of a declarative programming. Next is script-based programming, or in general scripting. So we talked about JavaScript, Python. These are some of the scripting languages which is primarily focusing on automation of certain tasks. So primarily created. You would have also heard about shell script, which is basically used for creating automation of certain elements that are required in an operating system. For example, like you want to automate creation of some folders or directories, files, etc. Yes, you can basically use a scripting language like Python. So it's very lightweight and an interpreted environment. And the last one is reactive programming. It focuses on asynchronous operations where you don't get the result immediately. All right, you would see the progress comes after some time. So you see the progress happening. Say for example, if you're copying some 100 files from one hard disk or one drive to another drive, for example, you would see that file copying progress. So one by one. So it will see that the progress is ticking. So 10% completed, 20% completed, 30% completed. Or if you're installing a program, for example, there also you see some information being propagated and displayed on the screen. And that's an example of an asynchronous programming which focuses on asynchronous operations. So these are some of the different types of programming that we also have, and what we discussed in this chapter about an overview of what programming is all about. And more importantly, we took a problem and we will see how to solve this problem in the subsequent videos.